now joined by Coach Gary Patterson from TCU. Coach, welcome, and your thoughts about the upcoming season.
Well, first off, I want to thank Jerry. I mean, getting over here in AT&T Stadium, it was about 17 minutes over. I was able to have a staff meeting before I came over, so that's compared to other media days through the years where you had to leave for a couple of days has been awesome for us. Obviously, coming off for us as a group, we're excited to get back. Everything we went through at the end of the season, really excited about the group. Great chemistry. We were young a year ago. Really watching them, how they've grown up. I think you'll see that with the young guys that I brought with me today. I think when you go through what we had to do, being 3-5, and then being able to win 4 out of 5 at the end of the season, it wasn't pretty. And so really held a lot of those guys out in the spring. So I think we had like 11, 12, 13 starters that didn't go through spring. So I'm probably as excited about it as anybody as far as getting back into it, doing it. Everybody likes to talk about quarterback. I think I liked best probably last year. You had a quarterback that hadn't played a lot, that was young, transferred, and really and then we had a fifth-year guy, and then a guy that probably couldn't play because of injury going through the season, and that pretty much started everything off. But we have 6 guys. I think the competition level, the level of maturity, how they prepared in the spring, then watching them lift, run, do everything in the summertime, it was unbelievable. We have probably most of our offense back. Where we've got to grow up is defensively. And so going into camp, when we start, I think come in on the first, start on the second, that'll be our goal. But really, if there's any indication what we've gone through this summer, they've done well enough. We've actually pulled back on a lot of the running, some of the running and some of the things we've done just for the simple reason of staying maybe a little healthier. I found usually that older teams don't get banged up as much as what young teams do, and we were young a year ago, and so we're going to find out if that holds true. But TCU is ready to go. You gotta love the season, don't you? It's a lot of fun, and so for us, getting back into it, I think our kids are excited about it, and really even our freshman class has been really unbelievable. The kind of people they are, how they've handled themselves at the university, off the field and on the field, has been awesome. So we'll go from there. Questions?
Okay, questions. We've got a question on the aisle in the center. If you'd stand up, please, and speak into the microphone.
Yeah, Coach Drew Davison for Star Telegram. You mentioned the quarterbacks. Kind of how would you handicap it at this point? Is all 6 pretty even, or kind of going into fall camp? I know you said you'd like to get it down to 2 at some point.
Well, number one, I'd handicap it like my golf game. I wouldn't handicap my golf game. To be honest with you, I play about a month and a half, start the middle of April and end at the end of May, and then we start camps. But, I think Mike Collins wasn't out in the spring because of just mending, so he'll be back. Alex Delton, you got a guy that was a team captain, really has handled himself very well. Max Duggan came in, the freshman. Justin Rogers was able to do more this spring than he was last spring. And so for us, having all those guys along with Baldwin and Downing, so you have 6 guys that I think really have handled themselves very well. I've always found that when you have a high competition level, as a general rule, you end up with a better product. And our competition level this year is going to be going into camp this summer is already at a higher level. And the best part about it is they all get along. They all want to be the guy. And I don't think you want it any different than that. And so, I like guys that have stories. And really all 6 guys have a story. Which, when you have a story, usually they have a little bit of a chip on their shoulder. And really all of them have a chip on their shoulder. So just like you, I'm kind of excited to see how everybody does. I judge quarterbacks. I judge them on Saturdays. But at some point in time, out of that group, though, we'll have to get down to 3 pretty quickly, just because you can't give guys enough reps to get where you need to get to without doing that. So
we got a question on the left side, about 3/4 of the way back, Coach.
Sure.
Hey, Coach, over here, other side.
Gotcha.
Kellis Robinette with the Wichita Eagle and Kansas City Star.
Yep.
Can you tell me what drew you to Alex Delton as a transfer, and maybe what's impressed you most with him since he's gotten on campus?
Well, number one, couple things. Let me just talk about the journey with that. We didn't really seek out Alex. He sought us out. You know, there was also a question I had earlier that Coach Snyder called me. He did not call me. Alex had asked him, looking around at places, and he said TCU would probably be a place because our programs were both very similar. We got him on campus. I didn't know a lot about him. He grew up an hour and 15 minutes away from my hometown. He's from Hayes and Pawnee Heights, where I grew up. Around Larned, we're very close. So I knew about him coming out of high school. And so was very impressed with him when he came on campus, the way he handled himself. He went home and, you know, had the opportunity. You know, he decided to come to our place. And to be honest with you, he saved us because really with Sean's transfer, we didn't have any other quarterbacks. Mike was out for the spring. You had Justin that was not 100%. You had a freshman coming in. So to have an older guy come in like that really probably made a big difference in how our spring went down, because you had a guy that came in, he rolled his sleeves up, he went through our off season, which is not easy, did a great job with that. He's really woven himself into being one of the guys on our team. I think he's helped our team chemistry quite a bit. He's also been without anything more, just a guy that's learned how to prepare for a Big 12 game. And we really we don't have a lot of guys at that position that have learned how to do that. And we're moving forward. I think we have some talent in young quarterbacks along with Mike. And so to have a guy that knows how to handle himself, how to prepare, how to do things, I think for our program, without even talking about winning and losing, I think has already made that position a lot better just because of the way he does things.
Question on the right-hand side, about 3/4 of the way back.
Yes, sir.
Hey, Coach. Sean J. Raja, Dave Campbell, Sex Football. Going back to the quarterbacks a little bit, status-wise right now, have you heard back on Matthew Baldwin's transfer?
No.
Okay. And then health-wise, where are Justin and Michael right now, and do you expect them to be 100%?
Mike's full speed. He's ready to go. Mike's full speed, and Justin's probably about 90, somewhere in there. I think just getting started. But I mean, he was out. He was able to go through spring, take reps, do things. You know, we just keep working with him. You know, that injury is one of those. You know, the guy that plays for the Cowboys, the linebacker, one of those days that nerve just wakes up. His is not completely woke up, but it's a lot farther along than we were a year ago.
Question in the middle.
Hey, Gary. Suzanne Halliburton, Austin American Statesman. With all the turnover that Big 12 has had with their head coaches recently, do you think the league is coming back toward you as a defensive guy, or do you still think it's going to be an offensive powerhouse of a league?
Well, yeah, I don't. You know, I think the league's been changing a little bit anyway. I think you're starting to see people get bigger, a lot more tight ends. Obviously, Kansas State does that. I hear rumors that Les is getting back to tight ends, maybe 2 tight ends, 1 fullbacks, stuff he did. But, you know, it's we prepare for all that stuff anyway. You got to take them one game at a time. In preseason, during our fall camp, we try to prepare for everything that we don't see from our own offense. I think that's been one of our secrets to doing things. And with a younger group, we're going to have to be able to grow up at that point. But I think it's exciting. I think it makes it better. You know, when you play in a round robin, it's harder. You know, after 3 years of playing the same person, you're not fooling anybody, and you're not going to get a break. You're not going to go, well, I'm not going to play him for 2 years. Every year you have to play him. And here's the thing. You know, over the years, you catalog how everybody plays each other. So I start looking at certain ball games because certain people play people better than what other people do because you see them year after year after year. And so when you have a new person coming in, you don't have to invent something new for game plan wise because you haven't played them yet. And so that actually in some ways it makes it easier. But and all the teams that have somebody coming in new, that, you know, Kansas kept Coach Bowen, Matt Wells, you know, he played quarterback, he was on the team when I coached at Utah State. They have a couple guys. If you look at each of the team, it has somebody. Coach Brown was at Texas Tech, and we played against him when I first started in the league back in 2012. So everybody has. So I don't think it's brand new. Vic Koenig and I played together at Kansas State. Him and I have cocked defense over the years, and so I don't think there's any surprises what's going on and how things are. You know, you only have 130 some coaches, teams, and so, you know, as far as watching people, you know, sometimes people tweak, but it will give us an answer. We've watched all you can watch to see what's going to go on and how people do things. So trying to do the best we can to make sure we're prepared.
Coach, on the aisle, about 3/4 of the way back on the left side.
Okay.
Randy Peterson from the Des Moines Register.
Hey, Randy.
You don't come into Iowa to recruit a whole ton. What did you see in Max Duggan that made you venture up our way?
Well, you know, I tell you, we're gaining. I tell you what we found. You know, we always lose the arms race in the state of Texas because you know, for every one person that yells TCU, you have, you know, 50 people that yell A&M or Texas Tech or whoever, because, you know, we're a smaller school. And so I think we have a better reputation even outside the state. If you just look at even the admissions, I think 56% of TCU is somewhere around in the 50s is non-Texan. And so some of our best players the last couple of years have gone. We've started riding our circles. Number one, he was a coach's son. He was a guy that was interested in us. He ended up with a great relationship with Sonny Cumbie, our offensive coordinator, quarterback coach. And, you know, it's just one of those things that happened. But he's a winner. And he has not shown any different than that, being because he came in early. He was here in January. And so, you know, we have, I think, 5 or 6 guys that came kind of from parameter places that aren't just neighboring states. And I think you'll start seeing us more and more being able to do that because the reputation of TCU has grown from an admission standpoint where their friends are coming to TCU, and so they know more about us now. And so that's made our job easier.
Question on the third row in the middle.
Hey, Coach,
Yes, sir.
right here. Andrew Miner with 24/7 Sports. You guys were 27th in the nation defensively last year in total defense. So when you say you're looking to grow up defensively, what exactly are you looking for in 2019?
You mean as far as the team? Well, number one, you know, we had a first and second round draft choice defensive end, so obviously you've got to replace those guys. We feel like we have the potential to be able to do that. It's harder to do that with younger players completely, but you know, it's you had a grad transfer that really we've been very pleasantly surprised and happy with. Shamik Blackshear, then O'Shawn Mathis, which nobody knows about, because he played 4 games, but he was a redshirt. He's a 6'5", 250-pound, 4'5" plus something in there that squats 600, benches 400. And then Parker, we brought in then another 4 freshmen. That's probably our biggest place we have to grow up just because of experience-wise. Everywhere else, when you have both your starting corners, and really we have 4 guys that have played a lot of football. Corner, you get back Ennis Gaines. You know, we'll really go from 5'10" safeties to being – our starting safety group right now is all over 6'2", with Trey Morig that had to play as a true freshman last year that probably, really to be honest, was probably not ready for all that, and has really changed his body, changed his mentality, Ennis, and then Vernon Scott. And then really we have 3 guys behind him. So linebacker-wise, he's here today, Garrett Wallow, that played there before. Montrell Wilson did not play a year ago, a 6'4" linebacker that's back working out and getting ready to go as a senior year. So depth, our biggest thing is out of 43 players, we got 22 redshirt freshmen that we have to grow up. And so how do we do that? How do we acquire depth and do the things we need to do? I think that'll be the key for us successfully. But anytime in this league, if you can rush the passer without blitzing and you can play, you have guys that can run with everybody else, you got a chance. And I think we have possibly the capabilities of doing that.
Question on the third row here on the left-hand side, Coach.
Yes.
Hey, Coach. Joe Trahan from
What's up, Joe?
WFAA TV. How you doing? I saw your tweet this morning about your facilities, and it sparked this question. I'm curious in terms of the pride factor that you have in what you and your regime, for lack of a better word, has been able to build at TCU while you've been there.
Well, number one, you know, we've been able to play at a high level on the field. You know, it's, everybody says, you know, in recruiting, they say, well, we're not a big-time program. Well, then they should look at where how many guys have gone in the NFL and how we've played and how we've done things. And I think if you want something to do, what you need to do after this media day is over is you need to go walk in our stadium and see how the east side and the new video board, how it changed the presence of our stadium. I think it was exactly what we needed as far as recruiting wise, fan experience wise. And I tell you, to be honest with you, it's going to keep the noise in, but it's a very impressive stadium for being 50,000, and it'll be just as loud as probably it was already a loud stadium, but I think it's even going to get louder, and I think our fans are going to love it. You know, in this day and age of foundation, I also think because of the monetary part of it, to be able to understand the structure and the foundation of what that gives us on a year-to-year basis, you know, it's a thought-out process. It wasn't one of those where we wanted to go do something just because we wanted to go do it. I think that you have to be able to show kids in this day and age what you want to do, and you want, as I keep telling people, you got eyes up, keep climbing. How do you want to do that? And that's exactly what I think the statement is going to say when we're done with it. It's impressive. I've been really excited with the vision of the people that put it together. We got new grass in because I didn't think we could play as fast. We're playing on the road faster on turf. So we put it on the grass we had on our practice field, which is another benefit because you're going to practice on the gameplay on the same thing you practice on. It's very quick. And so I think it plays to our hands of how we do things. And so, you know, everybody, you don't just, you know, we've always believed that you tweak things even if you have great years. These things were going on. We knew that we needed to do this before you had a 7-6 season. And so for us, you know, I applaud Board of Trustees, our Chancellor, our AD, which is here today, and all the people that gave. And what I like best about it, I think one of the mistakes that head coaches make sometimes, especially if you've been in a place like as long as I have, you get X amount of friends and you grow up with them and you forget everybody else. And, you know, we've really worked hard. A lot of that east side was given with funds of younger money, of the younger generation of TCU Horned Frogs. And I think that bodes well for the future of TCU. I mean, there's a mix of all of it, but I think that's a blessing in our side that we have the next generation growing up that still want to be successful because, you know, you want to become what everybody would quote a blue blood. You want to be, which is what our goal is to be thought of on a day-to-day basis, that we don't get shut out because they don't think that we're good enough from a program or a university standpoint. I think if you go over and look at the stadium, I think you would say that there's not much else that they could do. And then if you walk around the university and see that really the university is trying to win a national championship, I think you'd see from a standpoint of the whole situation that we're trying to get where we need to get to. So we represent the Big 12, the city of Fort Worth, the Metroplex, and TCU at their highest level. And so, you know, that's, you know, if you take the philosophy of you're a coach, you want to be somewhere 3 or 4 years, and then you want to move on to another place, and that's not been our philosophy. It's how do we make everybody else better? I've always said when you move, you got to help yourself. When you stay, you help others. And so since I have a little bit of cockroach DNA, and you can't kill a cockroach, we just kind of keep moving forward. That's what I tell them. I started in 5th place for my wife. So I just outlasted everybody else. So here we go.
This is going to be the final question for Coach on the right-hand side, about halfway.
Yep.
Hi, Coach. Grant McGalliard, RCFB. Last year, y'all had a lot of inconsistency and injuries on the offensive line, but you have people returning. Do you expect to have a consistent 5, men starting, and how much does that affect your ability to run the offense you want to run?
Well, yeah, obviously, we need to play. If you just look at one stat, not even offensive line. In the first, we were 3 and 5, and we were minus 12 in the takeaway ratio. The last 4 out of 5, we were a plus 8. That just goes to show you if we're more consistent at quarterback and we can grow up. We have guys back. They've got to stay healthy. We've still had some guys bang that still aren't completely back yet, but I think we have more depth than we did a year ago. We lost, you got to remember, a year ago you lost 4 guys that made it into camp. 4 seniors, 2 drafted, 2 they're still going back to camp. And so with this group, you have a group that's played together. I think they understand now the mentality that what you have to do to grow up and be the guy. You have two 6'7" offensive tackles. Really, for me, I think the important part of the whole situation is depth and really finding a guy that can play at center. Because really, in those 4 guys we graduated a year ago, that two of those guys were our centers. And so growing up at that position, I think it's going to be really important, keeping a guy healthy. That position, working with the quarterback, calling everything that we ask the center to do. And so, they seem to have a better chemistry about them. And so obviously I'll find out just like you do when we get to it. But we've taken some steps to make sure that we stay healthier, how we practice with them, how much we'll use them, so we can get to August 31st. I think that's the most important. You can do that when you have older players. When you don't have older players, it's hard because you need to get them to a point where they can play. Because one of our lines we have is you don't want to play, you want to play well. And so everybody says they want to play. Well, no, you really don't. You want to play well. And so we've got to do a better job, obviously, offensively, to be able to do that. And one of the ways to do that is to also play against good defense and be able to go good on good and do things in practice. So, but be smart about it. So starting here in a couple weeks, that's the plan we've been talking most about.
Okay, Coach, thank you very much.
I appreciate
Good luck
it.
on the season.
We'll see you all. Thanks for being here.